What is going on, eaters and feeders? Today's episode is going to be about building menus. I know we've discussed it before, but I recently had a consultation call and I wanted to go over some of the suggestions that I had on that call for that consultation client who, this is a very interesting situation. They're actually moving from an operating bar restaurant into a meal prep because of what's going on with the pandemic and the shutdowns and restricting hours and all sorts of other stuff. So they're making a very creative pivot, one that I suggest a lot of caterers and restaurants look into, and they're adding a meal prep. They've already got the kitchen, right? They're already making food. Just got to make some different food, put it on a menu, put it on a nice ordering system like the one that I also have links to in the show notes. If you're interested in getting on the software that we have, it costs you $0 a month. There's a lot more information on that. Tons of features, too much to go over right now. In fact, it was too much to go over in one video, so I've got several videos on it. Check out those walkthroughs in the links below. If this is the first time that you've made it to my channel, welcome. We obviously discuss starting and growing your own meal prep business, as well as all sorts of other stuff that I find interesting and useful as an entrepreneur. So check out the links below, and then also while you're down there, hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that alert notification. Give it a like. Give it an unlike. If you don't like it, whatever. I want to know how you feel. But make sure you're subscribed and you have those alerts on, because not only do I put out weekly content, but I also go live, and I hate sticking to a schedule. My life is too crazy, and when I feel spontaneous and I want to share something, I want to be able to go live, and I don't want you to miss it. So subscribe. Hit the alert notification bell, and like I said, thumbs up, thumbs down, but make sure you go all the way down to those links, because that's where the real value is. You can get to the private group that I have where we discuss exclusively, what would you think, meal prep stuff. We've got a free boot camp. Actually, there's a couple of free boot camps now. I just made another one free on my website, mealprepbiz101.com. And like I said, the software. This is the only place that you can get this software. It is the most advanced meal prep software on the face of the planet. And again, I don't want to go into the features, but it'll do everything for you. It'll provide you with an ordering system that's going to be e-commerce based, a real website, so you're not doing it through, thrown together, text and email system. Maybe you're trying to force it to work with Shopify or Wix and just slamming your head on the pole. I know a couple of my consultation clients are in the process of transitioning from those sites to something that's going to be, I tell people it's like getting the Thanos glove. You'll be able to do whatever you want, and the limitations are based on your imagination.
Welcome to our channel where we go behind the scenes for meal plan company Fit Food Fresh and other local businesses across South Florida. Make sure you hit the subscribe and alerts so you never miss a video. Hit us with any questions or suggestions.
Let's talk about menus. Menus, it's the backbone of what you do, right? It's the food. How big should it be? How many items should I have on it? What type of items? What type of categories? Well, we're going to discuss that, and I'm going to give you some pointers to help you not only come up with your first menu, but these are some good pointers to keep in mind every time you make a menu, because I hope you guys aren't planning on just making one menu and being done. That sounds really boring. You must be really confident in your food and your ability to continuously sell that food. Keep in mind, this menu is probably going to continue to evolve, and that's probably going to be my first point that I want to go over with you is, regardless of what you start with something, but be ready to change. Take the feedback that you're getting, ask for critical feedback, especially. Everyone's going to tell you something's good. Look for some ways that you can improve. Ask them what they want to see on the menu. Don't promise them that you're going to be able to put everything they want on the menu or keep everything they want on the menu, but tell them that you're going to be willing to consider it and maybe try it. And then if it doesn't sell well, it's going to come off, but at least you're not setting the expectation of saying, hey, if you're going to be my customer, I'll put whatever you want on the menu. Because if you do that to too many people, your menu gets too big, because nobody likes the same thing. Even if someone likes their mom's meatloaf, they might not like your meatloaf. And that'll be my second point. Go to stuff that is familiar, and then do a healthy twist. Take a meatloaf, make a chicken meatloaf, make a turkey meatloaf. Meatballs are great. You could do turkey meatballs and chicken meatballs, and everyone knows what a meatball is. That's why it's nice to have, a familiar term or familiar language in there. So it's like, oh, okay, I know what this is, and this is just a healthier version of something I already like. Okay. What's great about meatballs and burgers is once you've got a solid turkey meatball or chicken burger or turkey burger, whatever, we make them all. But once you've got the patty down, or once you've got the meatball down, it's something people dig. you can do them all sorts of different ways. There's a bunch of different ways you can do burgers. There's a bunch of different ways you can do meatballs. We have Korean meatballs. We've got traditional, Italian meatballs. We've got probably 3 different types of meatballs, just the chicken meatballs alone. 3 or 4 different types off the top of my head. And then turkey burger and chicken burger, we probably have close to a dozen different versions that we do. And then we cycle them through the menu so no one gets bored, but it's also still familiar enough where if you liked it last week, you'd be pretty open to ordering it again next week, even though it's changed to the Hawaiian chicken burger from the buffalo chicken burger or whatever it was last week. And like I said, introduce that novelty that is not only going to allow you to throw in some healthy ingredients, but also keep them intrigued, but also that familiarity so they're comfortable ordering it. A lot of you guys don't have the pictures of food yet. You have very basic menus, and that's not horrible, but if you're going to have some people who are going to be ordering without a picture, you've got to make it as easy as possible for them to imagine, because human beings very much use their eyes first. That's why nature has, the colorful fruit and things like that to attract us to it. We look at a menu. That's why Denny's menus are so successful at getting you to order the pictured items. All the stuff that's on the menu but not in a picture, much lower order amounts on those. All the stuff that's in the pictures on the Denny's menus, that's the stuff. Those are their high sellers. A lot of times what you'll find yourself doing is once you get into a weekly rotation of your menus, when you put new items on, you might not have enough time to take pictures. So make sure that the menu names, kind of rolling into another point here, but make sure it's familiar as far as the menu names go. Meatloaf, meat burger, quesadillas. There's healthy ways you could do quesadillas, or we're all adults. You could put some stuff that's less than healthy on your menu. Maybe you do a healthier spin. You use the highest quality cheese for your quesadilla, but it's still going to be some fun food. Now with the name, I also want you to start trying to have some fun if you can, or make it something that it doesn't have to be fun. It doesn't have to be super descriptive, but ideally, if you can make it that way without making it too forced, try to have some fun with it. We did some goofy names. We actually got to a point where we had so many funny names on our menu that we tried to make every meal like a funny, silly name, and we had a lot of fun with that. But when we would introduce another item, and it was hard to find something that was still funny and not just super long, and we ended up confusing a lot of people. So we got away from making everything a funny name, and then the description would be a little bit more serious. But I like writing, so I like getting descriptive and being a little bit silly. I am actually selling a motorcycle right now, and I photoshopped, I know this isn't directly related, but I photoshopped the picture of the motorcycle like on Mars and in Las Vegas on the Strip, like an obviously bad Photoshop job. Like one's at the beach, one's like somewhere in Taiwan, one's on one's on Tatooine from Star Wars. And so it's obviously fake Photoshop pictures, but I'm getting a lot of responses. A lot of people are looking at that ad now, and I'm actually getting a lot more traction than the previous time when I tried selling the bike, probably about 10 months ago now. So little things like that. Make the picture fun if you can, or at least make the description fun. Make it something that stands out, because it fosters the personality. Not only does it help sell the meal, but making it fun fosters a relationship. It builds a relationship with your brand and that person on a more personal level. If everything's got a very generic name, I know for some of you it's not easy to be creative, but if everything's got a very generic name, that's one less thing that differentiates you from someone else. And you should be looking not to an unreasonable length, but you should be looking at any way you can tweak every little bit of interaction that your company has with your customer. Try to tweak it so it's a little bit more personal. You can get down to really granular things like, investing in bags. I don't think that's as necessary. And, if you're trying to be thorough and you had the money, then yeah, get different bags, get colored containers. get, all those type of things as well. But something that's basically free that you're already going to be doing, put a little bit more time into making that menu. Before you have the money to go and buy your own bags or design bags or do any of that silly stuff, which honestly we still haven't done. We use the same bags we've always done because it really doesn't matter at that point, I feel. But the menu is something you're going to be doing anyways. You're already spending that time. It's not going to cost you any more money. So put a little bit more effort into it. It shows a little bit more attention to detail, and people appreciate it. If it's not funny, then make it descriptive. Ideally, something that's a little bit of both, and ideally you have pictures as well. But at least something that's familiar, has some kind of personality. Use it as a sales tool, and also introduce that novelty. One of a great example is we've got chicken parm. That's probably one of our highest selling items, like for years. We can't keep it off the menu. People will revolt if we keep it off the menu. There's just a faction of our audience that lives off of our chicken parm. Now, it's a very familiar dish. Everyone knows what a chicken parm is, at least in the U.S. Chicken parm is a very popular dish. I bet it's more popular in the U.S. than it is in Italy, and it's an Italian dish. So what do we do with our chicken parm? Well, we use panko instead of breadcrumbs, so it's lower on the glycemic index. We're going to pan-sear it instead of fry it. We put it over a bed of julienne vegetables or whole wheat pasta, depending on how the chef's putting it together, instead of traditional white pasta. We make our own pomodoro sauce in-house, so we're able to control the amount of salts and sugars and all that other stuff that goes in there. Not to say that you guys have to do all of this, but this is an example of how you can make a few changes to a classic dish that everyone's familiar with, a lot of people love, and you make it healthier. Now, is it as healthy as having a kale salad? No. But if you have your macros on the menu and you have your macros on the label, people have the ability to know whether or not it's fitting their dietary parameters. So it's on them. Now, like I said before, we're also all adults. So we have quesadillas on the menu. That's a very familiar item. A lot of people are surprised to see quesadillas on a meal prep company, but it's, we're able to do it with higher quality ingredients and, again, introduce a little bit of novelty, a little bit more health, but also keeping it somewhat familiar. People who are super strict with their diet obviously aren't ordering the quesadilla and the chicken parm. They're going for, the chicken salad or something off of our Crazy Clean menu. But in the beginning, it's another thing I want to discuss. You don't want to have too many different menus. You don't want to have too many different categories, I should say. You don't have too many different menu categories because that could spread you a bit thin. You want to cross-utilize the ingredients, so you want to use the same side on a lot of different dishes. You don't want every dish to have a different side because when it comes down to production, that's another mess that you have to clean up after each and every round of, making this type of rice, that type of rice, the broccoli, whatever else. You're getting utensils out, you're taking up space, you're taking up time, you've got a body, whether it's you or somebody you have to pay who has to show up and do all these different things, and you're making a lot of fewer things, a higher quantity of fewer different types of SKUs. It's a lot more efficient than making that same gross volume, but differentiated over a bunch of different SKUs. Just a pain, just a huge pain. So that's another thing to consider in your menu. Keep things that'll somewhat align. Don't have, if you're able to have chicken on a few of the different items, it's obviously going to be a lot easier when you're buying cases of stuff. You're going to have less left over. If you had 3 different types of proteins, odds are you're not going to use exactly a case amount. So you're going to have a little bit left over of 3 different cases now. So it's taking up room. What if you don't have those proteins or whatever that ingredient is on the next menu? Whereas if that was just, 3 chicken items and you have 1 case of chicken left over, like that's no sweat. So there's we can go really deep with menu design, but I want to try to keep this quick and easy. So you guys get an idea. Make it with some intelligence. Now, don't be ashamed to copy what's working. Just like taking classic dishes, if there's a restaurant in your area that you like, copy some items from them. If there's, we've done some stuff where I've actually attempted to try to get a cease and desist letter from a major company by naming dishes after them, and then I'll post them on social media and even tag the companies in it. I've yet to get a cease and desist letter, but we've done, we made Chick-fil-A sauce and we named it Chick-fil-A sauce. We made it in-house, but so people knew what to expect as far as how it tasted. We made it with some chicken fingers on the kids menu or something like that. And I was like, I want to name it Chick-fil-A sauce. Don't play around with the spelling. I want to name it Chick-fil-A sauce. Now, you could play around with the spelling. You could make, use a Big Mac sauce and spell like Big Mac with a K or something if you're afraid, but still setting the right expectation for people so they know like, oh, I like Big Macs. That's Big Mac sauce. Oh, okay, I'm going to order that in-house Big Mac sauce, or even, I don't know if they sell Big Mac sauce at Restaurant Depot. Whatever you want to do, I'm not going to advise you to get into legal trouble by using Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or any other copyrighted names. I'm sure they're copyrighted or trademarked, whatever. So I'm not going to advise you to do that. But if you happen to do that and you get a cease and desist letter, send me a copy, because we weren't able to get one, and that was something I've always wanted to have up on the shelf, but they just ignored us. We did Bang Bang Shrimp. For those of you who are familiar with Bonefish, it's a restaurant, higher end restaurant in the Darden portfolio, so like a fancier Olive Garden, let's be honest. It's a fancier Olive Garden, but they've got Bang Bang Shrimp, and we did Bang Bang Shrimp on our menu. We called them Bang Bang Shrimp, and still nothing. So we tried them all, but that's one thing. People like those dishes for a reason. I think Tom and Sarah in Buffalo, Craving Time, I want to say they did a Big Mac wrap that I still want to try. I got to try that. If I go up to Buffalo, I'm going to let Tom and Sarah know. I'm going to let you guys know. And I want that on the menu for the week that I go up there. So I'll let you know if I'm anywhere near Buffalo, I'm expecting a Big Mac wrap, because I love Big Macs. And yeah, I'll admit it. I actually have this in my fridge right now. We've got a Cuban quesadilla. Cuban sandwiches are huge in South Florida. And that'll bleed into my next topic. Look at these segues. Cuban quesadillas are big in South Florida. They might not be as popular in Atlanta. I don't know. Or Austin. I don't know. I don't even know if you guys know what a Cuban sandwich is. We obviously have a lot more Cubans down here. So we have, a lot more of the Cuban food, Cuban coffee, and all sorts of other great Cuban-y stuff. And Cuban sandwich, a good Cuban sandwich is so hard to find. It's all about the bread. Actually, it's all about everything. Like, every ingredient has to be right on that. And it seems like such an easy thing to do, but it's not. And I love a good Cuban sandwich. The Cuban quesadilla hits that nerve for me just fine. I normally order at least a couple of them on the weeks that we have them on the menu. But go with the local flavor. If you're servicing, Atlanta, or if you're servicing Austin, or if you're servicing, San Francisco or Buffalo, what are people in that area eating? If we were in Philly, you better believe we would have a Philly cheesesteak quesadilla. Have fun with it. Not say that you have to stick to quesadillas or anything, but use, the crowd favorites. Play to your strengths as well. If you suck at making whatever it is, maybe stay away from it, but play to your strengths. If you're not great with Asian cuisine, don't make that a staple in your menu. If you've got some skill there, flex. Maybe do some Asian fusion, depending on what the local palate is. Don't look to reinvent the wheel where you don't have to. 80-90% of your menu could be copied. Hell, there is a meal plan company. I think they've stopped doing this. I haven't looked at their menu in a while. I'm not going to mention their name, but there's a meal plan company that was literally waiting for our menu to come out. And this is back when we used to email it out, I believe, and they were somewhere on our email chain, and they would just basically paste they just put the PDF of our menu up. They were just copying our food. I don't know how they got the recipes. That was pretty ballsy. I know I saw some of the items they would take off, and I was probably like, those are probably the items their chef had no idea how to make. But there is a company who grew just fine. They're still around today, and they're blatantly copying our menu. Now, they're out of our delivery radius. So it seemed like a little kind of like someone else was getting an A for your hard work. And even though it didn't come down, it kind of but I told myself, you know what, this is a form of flattery. the dude's probably, lost, not sure what he's doing. I would have liked for him to have asked to, do it. But at least he didn't say he had any affiliation with us, which was kind of good because they didn't have the best reputation, unfortunately. And, that's not to their discredit. I know it's a hard job. But it wasn't like it was hurting us in any way. So even if someone had the meal and they didn't like it, it's not like it ever came back to us. And there was zero way for it to really hurt us. So I came to grips with it, and I was okay with them copying. If you're going to copy somebody, just make sure it's like that. Make sure it's someone out of your delivery radius. Don't start any, tension with a bigger company maybe. And, that was one thing that bugged my business partner so much. And like every week, he's like, he's doing it again. It's like, of course he's doing it again. He did it last week. He did it the last 5 weeks in a row. Like, of course he's doing it again. And he just couldn't get over that. That was something that really really bugged him. But I got to the point where, like I said, after I saw him doing it twice, and I was just like, he's gonna keep doing it. Like, what are we gonna do? Send a cease and desist and be jerks? Like, for what? Like, we would win, obviously, but to what avail? It's not even worth it. So I figured that was his karma that he'd have to deal with. What else we got? Oh, my screensaver just went on me. Bear with me. I got some notes here. Mimicking famous dishes. Like I said, that could be fun. And in that case, if it's a big corporation, use the name. But if it's a local company, or if it's a local meal prep company, stay away from them. Leave them alone. Don't start anything in your own backyard. And you could also be strategic about picking and choosing, so it's not as obvious. This guy also would do menus that were like the same week. Like, it would be when we launched a menu, he would do it. So don't do something that is immediate, that you're going to have to like learn how to do. Don't set that expectation of like, okay, let's figure out how to make the, Hawaiian tropical turkey burger, whatever, this week, and make sure we figure out how to make everything work and fit this description. If you're going to be making these, other dishes, figure it out. Do a test run first. Make sure you have it down, because the worst thing is trying to do something that you fail at. So any dishes that you're not solid on, do a run through first. Also, think about what it's going to be like to make that at volume. Some of these dishes might not be hard to bang out 10 of them, but as you grow, if you're banging out 50 or 100 of these items, what's that going to look like? Also, if you have a very small amount of orders, what are some of these going to look like at, 1 or 2? If you have a meatloaf on the menu and you sell 2 meatloaves, you've got to make a whole meatloaf to serve 2 portions. That's a lot of waste. So you don't want to do that. You can't make 1 meatloaf portion. It doesn't work like that. And there's a lot of dishes that just don't work. They're not as efficient in lower quantities. So don't throw on meatloaves if you're not sure that you can't sell at least enough to buy up, however many loaves you're using. Otherwise, you're going to be the one eating all of those. Play around. It's going to be hard. There's going to be some stuff that works like gangbusters for certain companies and fails miserably for other companies. What are the variables going to be? Well, that local palate. I know the local palate down in South Florida is going to be different than Philadelphia. It's going to be different than, Chicago. It's probably going to be comparable to maybe LA. But I think South Florida's got its own thing. Austin has its own thing. The barbecue in Austin is probably a much more prevalent local flavor as opposed to South Florida. We've got some awesome barbecue down here, but it's not as much of our culture as a lot of the Caribbean influences are. So a lot of you guys are probably I know a lot of you are close to these cultural melting pots. So that allows you to kind of play. It could seem, intimidating because there's so many different flavors that you can play with, but get excited. That allows you to try different things out. And if you're in one of those, cultural hubs where a lot of people are already experiencing a lot of things, like if you go back 50 years, how many people were eating sushi? Probably not a whole lot of people in America eating sushi. But nowadays, there's so many different fusions and different types of restaurant concepts that people's palates are pretty broad, you might be surprised at what people are into. The one thing I'm going to stress is make sure you're open to feedback. Encourage critical feedback, not only with your menu, but your entire business. Everything you do in life, you should be looking for critical feedback, because the critical feedback is going to let you know where you need to improve. A lot of time, the positive feedback that you get is, I don't want to say disingenuous, but you can't do as much with positive feedback. Someone saying that something's good doesn't give you that much to improve your business. Someone telling you something sucks, that gives you somewhere where you can tighten up, focus, switch it out, change it, see what the sales are like. Not just the initial sales. The initial sales might be because you had a great picture or the description was awesome, and then second time you see that on the menu, it drops down, and it's because they didn't really like the dish. That tells you that your recipe is off. So there's a few different factors that are going to determine whether or not a dish is successful with your company. As I mentioned before, local flavors, your chef's ability, or your ability, whoever's cooking, to execute the dish properly. And at the end of the day, if it flops on the menu the first time, is it the name? Is it the lack of picture? Did you take a sloppy picture? Keep all those things in consideration, because sometimes you'll have an awesome recipe, horrible name, horrible picture, no one's going to buy it. And that's a shame. And the people who do buy it love it. And we've had a lot of dishes like that just, they don't translate well through any sort of medium. They don't look great in a picture. They don't look like some of the stews. They don't look like anything spectacular. So when you have something with some colorful garnishes on it, or some pretty nice clean cut proteins, they might be more attracted to that. But we've got some awesome stews that, again, they don't take great pictures. The description isn't anything fancy. You can't translate how great and satisfying and savory these stews are, and they're low sellers. But I hate when they're not on the menu, because I love them, and we have some other people who like items like that just don't do well. And the people who love them will never get why the other people don't like them. They just don't try them, I guess. But yeah, play with it, stay open, and if you guys have any ideas, if there's anything that just works like gangbusters, go ahead and join the group, share the group. I'm going to have a bunch of people sharing what's working for them, what's not working, what failures we have, because those are some things that'll help you avoid issues. There might be some dishes that also don't translate through the meal prep process of being cooled down, put in a container, and then reheated. Anything that has to be crispy, probably not going to translate that crispiness very well through cooling down, being plated in a container, and then reheated in a microwave, right? So keep those items off the menu unless you have some other packaging arrangement on storing the crispy stuff separately so it doesn't have to go through that. But that becomes a bit of a nightmare. So a lot of times it's better to just avoid the headaches and the caveats that you have to make, and just intelligently plan what's going to work well in your model. All right, I think I covered enough. Those went over a lot of points to at least give you some tactical information to move forward with. I'm going to jump off now, but I thank you so much for tuning in. Again, like, subscribes, and check out the links in the show notes if you please, and make sure that alert notification is on so you don't miss out on any of my new episodes.